All right, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? How is it going? I am Is There No One Else? And in today's video, we're going to go over the big Nightblade changes for Update 35, the Lost Depths DLC, as it pertains to PvP. There are other Nightblade changes. I'm not going to dive too much into them because I am not a PvE person, but we will discuss the PvP changes. We'll go through my thoughts on everything, and yeah, like I said in the previous video, there's so many changes coming this patch. I'm trying to break everything up, and I figured Nightblade had enough changes that we'll just talk about Nightblade. So yeah, these are just my thoughts. I'm subject to change my opinion after we play things in open world PvP, but wanted to give you guys, if you're not paying attention to the PTS, like what's been going on here. So let's dive into it. First things first, let's talk about Assassin's Blade. Assassin's Blade, Killer's Blade, got a pretty big it got a pretty big burf, guys, and so it got buffed quite a bit. It now does up to 400% more damage with enemies with less than 50% health instead of, what was it, 350% with 25% or less. It also heals you for 7651 if the enemy dies within 2 seconds of being struck. So this is a substantial buff. Like, it scales higher. It starts scaling at a higher health amount, similar to Executioner, and it also heals. And so this skill already felt better than Executioner when you run it, and now because it's very similar to with what it does, I think you're going to see a lot more people run it. And so it works very well. And so I think that's a good change overall. I mean, there's no complaints. I don't think anybody's really talking about Executioner or Killer's Blade. But yes, if you're running Executioner, I would strongly consider running Killer's Blade. I just think it overall feels better. It hits hard. It gives you a heal. They wanted to provide some class identity to the skills and make them stronger than weapon skill line abilities, and they succeeded in doing that with Killer's Blade, in my opinion. Blur got a huge change. Now, if you guys know, or if you guys watch my build video, last patch I was running Mirage. And Mirage grants you minor resolve, increase your physical and spell resistance. The main reason I was running this is I was already so fast, I didn't need snare removal. You guys can feel free to go look at that video. But a lot of snares I was just flying through anyways. And this duration is 20 seconds. And so I just felt like it wasn't a huge strain on my magicka. I got increased physical and spell resistance, and it also gave me major evasion. And so it was just this way to be tankier in a patch with a bunch of burst damage. And so, yeah, this still exists, but now both morphs have this. While active, taking direct damage reduces the cost of your next roll dodge by 10%, up to a maximum of 100%. This effect can occur, this effect is stacked up to once every half second. So basically what this is, every time you take direct damage, which is almost everything, every half second you take direct damage, every 5 seconds, you're going to have a free roll dodge, which is, it's not a huge buff, but it is a buff to sustain. It is a buff to roll dodge builds. And it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know. Like, I know Vigor's giving you your minor buff, and so Mirage will no longer be the best option. But possibly Phantasmal Escape. Running Phantasmal Escape for the roll dodge, and unlike Magblades, if you're not going to run Vigor, or more Magicka-based specs, if you're not running Vigor, Mirage is still great, but this is a nice buff. I was trying it. It definitely works. Yeah, it's a very... They made a pretty solid skill better. Reaper's Mark. This also got an adjustment. It now heals you with no cap. You have no, it's not reduced by battle spirit or anything, and so you get a ridiculous heal. And yeah, they changed it to where it costs magicka. So overall, I mean, you guys know I was running this last patch as well. It is going to cost something, so that might be a little rough. I might have to change my skill in my back bar just because it's not always easy to sustain a ton of magicka skills. It's still good. It was kind of ridiculous that the skill was free, but yeah, it now heals for more. It is also a good skill. But yeah, I didn't want to dive in too much into those because I wanted to talk to you guys about the surprise attack changes and the concealed weapon changes, because concealed weapon got a pretty nice buff, and I wanted to talk to you guys about both of these and kind of give you guys thoughts and ideas, get your minds wandering for what skill you're going to run more. So surprise attack is the stamina morph. Slash an enemy dealing X amount of physical damage, and you apply the sundered status effect, which is penetration. If you strike an enemy from their flank, you set them off balance. This attack will also be guaranteed to be a critical strike up to once every 4 seconds. And so now you don't have the guaranteed stun from flank. It is now an off balance from flank. And every 4 seconds, it's a guaranteed critical strike. And so these are huge changes, guys. And so I want to talk about the stuff that's preference and the stuff that's just true. Preference is, if you like the surprise attack stun, this is a nerf for you. And I totally understand liking the surprise attack stun. It is very effective. It's easy to use. That comes down to preference. From my point of view, I find that often versus tankier individuals, it's sometimes harder on a Nightblade to line up combinations. And I try to kill people, like those types of people, in 2 global cooldowns, because that's really all you have to kill somebody on a Nightblade. And so if you use a surprise attack, well, that's 1 global cooldown, and if you stun there, then you can typically only land 1 other skill before they get up and they recover. And so like a surprise attack stun from a flank plus an in cap and a spec bow is just not feasible for all those abilities landing the way the current surprise attack stun lands. And so it's my preference. I prefer the off balance, because now I can surprise attack, get the guaranteed crit, do a lot of damage, and then in cap for the stun and spec bow. Because typically, like I said, you can only get 1 global cooldown after the stun. And so this is going to line up more potential burst. And oftentimes, if you watch my Nightblade, if I'm 1vxing, I'll do a full heavy attack from stealth into an in cap into a spec bow to try and nuke somebody out. Well, now with surprise attack, my full heavy attack will crit because of shadowy disguise. My surprise attack will critically strike because that's what it does every 4 seconds. It will not stun them anymore. And then I get to in cap and spec bow. And so sometimes, you know, I will get pulled out of stealth and everything, or I will get the stun from stealth, but like that full combination will land, and I will have more damage than what I currently do because I get a guaranteed critical strike on my surprise attack. I had a discussion with a guy on the forums about this. This is a buff for damage. It doesn't matter how you look at it. It doesn't matter like, oh, I have 50% crit chance. I'm critting most of those times anyways, like whatever you want to say. This is still more damage because 100% crit every 4 seconds is better than 50% crit all the time. Like if your choices are 100% crit once every 4 seconds and then 50% the rest of the time, that's more crit than 50% all the time. It's just more damage. I don't know why they decided to buff surprise attack, but they did. And so this is a buff for damage. As far as subjectivity goes, you might not like the stun. You might not like how the stun changes are. You might like the old surprise attack. I totally get that. But for lining up more burst, for me, I like this change a lot. Like I really like this change a lot, but we're different players. And so you were inclined to disagree. I don't think there's any right or wrong answer. That's just my point of view. I like this change more. And so I thought that was a good change by them. But yeah, the concealed weapon changes, the other morph, huge changes. And this is going to be one of those things that I wanted to talk about and provide it to you because it's now an option for all Nightblades. But while slotted, you gain minor expedition, and leaving sneaker invisibility increases your weapon and spell damage. So you see we have 85-20 magic damage. You strike an enemy from their flank, you set them off balance, same thing. When you leave sneak, invisibility, or major expedition ends while in combat, your damage done is increased by 7% for 5 seconds. Let me put this in my bar, so we can get an idea what this looks like. 10%. So we get 10% fully morphed. So when you leave sneak, invisibility, or your major expedition ends while you're in combat, your invisibility Your damage done is increased by 10% for 5 seconds. While slotted, you gain minor expedition, increasing your movement speed by 15%. So, concealed weapon now very well could be the best Nightblade spammable. Like, And so when you're looking at the skill, it says, when you leave sneak invisibility or major expedition ends while in combat, your damage done is increased by 10% for 5 seconds. So let's do our cloak change. Let's come out. And you see we went from 9,500 to 10,360. And so there's that. And if we're running a bow build, sorry, let me get in combat first. If we do a bow build while in combat, the exact same thing should happen. So you see we jump up once again. And so as we know, a lot of Nightblades run. I mean, it doesn't have to be the bow. The bow does give you major expedition when you dodge roll. You can run race against time. We can put that on real quick as well, just so you guys can see that. Just so you have an idea what's going on here. But sorry, 1 second. We got to be in combat. And you see our damage should go up. There it is. So it was 9,500, now it's 10,466. So yeah, that is a huge change. And so regardless of if you're a mag blade, if you're a stand blade, the major expedition change, most classes, most Nightblades are running one or the other. And so, and you get minor expedition. So you have major and minor. So movability will be fantastic. And so if you can get the magicka on your bar to use this as a spammable, it will be very good. This is no longer an unusable skill, which is fantastic. I don't know personally how I'm going to do it. I haven't gotten that far. I still think surprise attack is also very good. The sundered status effect is very, very good. The guaranteed crit is also very good. This kind of reminds me of people running mechanical acuity versus, a flat damage set. Obviously, a flat damage set is going to cause you to crit harder. And so your concealed weapons will crit harder than surprise attack. But your crit chance will be higher with surprise attack. Does that make sense? So you will crit more with surprise attack in general, and your overall base damage will come up, but your top end Giga Chad damage will come in with concealed weapon. And so that's the differences here. But this is a very good skill, a very, very good skill. Definitely worth trying to get on your bar because, yeah, minor expedition and 10% more damage and already good spammable damage. This is a very nice change for Nightblades. And so I wanted to spend a lot of time talking about that in this video. And then the last one, Dark Cloak. Dark Cloak got adjusted a lot. And I don't really disagree. I don't really agree with the changes. Dark Cloak's change is shroud yourself in protective shadow, healing for 1733 health every 1 second over 5 seconds, increasing it by an additional 150% when you're not moving. This portion of the ability scales off your max health. You gain minor protection for 12 seconds, reducing your damage done by 5%. Now, I understand if they wanted to reduce this for people in PvP and everything, but I think this is a little too harsh. It's probably staying the way it is. It is a good heal when you're not moving, but when you have to move, it is garbage. I mean, look at this. We get 1785 non-crits. The minute I stop moving, we're jumping up to 4464. And so it is a huge change in the overall heal. They did this for tanks. Obviously, tanks have to move as well. I wish it wasn't so harsh. I wish... if they're worried about the Dark Cloak heal and they feel like it was too strong, I think you could not make the disparity as large. Maybe instead of it, I don't know the exact numbers off the top of my head, but maybe only increase the heal by 75% when you're not moving, or 50%, and bring the base up. Aspect to Terror got huge changes as well. Major Cowardice. It applies to everybody that you fear, reducing their weapon and spell damage by 430. This is a way to make yourself very, very tanky. Reducing somebody's weapon and spell damage by 430 is very powerful. It no longer has a cap of how many targets it can affect also, so you have a bunch of people jumping on you. You could use this. My personal opinion, probably won't make it on my bar. I'm not saying it's a bad skill. I'm not saying it's a bad buff or anything, because it's not. This is a nice buff, but with how Nightblade's line up skills and abilities, it's probably not going to make it on my bar. It's not going to help me kill the vast majority of players. I used to run Mass Hysteria way back in the day. I had problems killing people due to global cooldowns on abilities, and I took this skill off, and I just went straight into in-cap spec bows, and I had way more success. I have a hard time killing permablock builds, but I kill everybody else easier. And so this is adding another global cooldown. Obviously it's with a nice buff. Maybe for severely outnumbered it'll be very good, since it's 12 seconds of major cowardice for everybody that jumps on you. It could be good for that. I reserve the right to change my opinion. It is a good skill. I just don't know how well it's going to work offensively, but defensively it's really good. In a small group, you're now providing an AoE fear that also is providing major cowardice. Very, very nice skill. Manifestation of Terror is also good. It's also major cowardice. It's the one you put on the ground. I've never really used it, to be honest, but it is now changed into a good skill. Yeah. What are the other ones? I think we got Drain Power is the last one. So Power Extraction, you now... Actually, no, I think this stayed the same. So I could be wrong. I'll have to go back and look at it. And I'll provide a correction here if I'm wrong. But overall, Nightblade changes are very good. I think the Killer's Blade change is fantastic. I think the Surprise Attack change is good. Concealed Weapon change is good. Aspect of Terror is good. Outside of reducing cast times on ultimates or eliminating them, please us, please. I know it's not happening, but outside of doing that, I don't know if I'm going to run Aspect of Terror. I'll meme the hell out of this if I'm wrong. but yeah, good overall changes. One of the few classes that got substantial buffs. But yeah, that's what's coming for you Nightblade mains. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Please provide in the section below. Thank you for watching, guys. Have a nice day.